Hello, BookTube. Welcome. We're back from the dead. Well, not quite. Yeah, Edgar's back from the dead.
I have to
We have
fix
a couple
my
of
eyeballs.
we have a couple of comments already.
Oh,
Aaron, hey Aaron, nice to see
I
you. Hi Jim. Hello Jenny.
I
Although I do have to ask Aaron, to whom was he referring when he mentioned Mr. Whippy in one of your comments yesterday? I think the comment on the share of the post. Who's
that
Mr.
would be
Whippy?
you. That would be you.
But how? What does it mean? Who's Mr. Who is Mr.
Yeah, I
Whippy?
don't know who Mr. Whip.
I mean, there's the ice cream, isn't it, Mr. Whippy? I don't know. So yeah. So I hope everyone's doing well. It's been such a long time. I've kind of forgotten how to do this, right? And you can tell it's been a long time because instead of having tens of people waiting to watch us, there's like two. But of course, two very lovely people. Oh, five now actually. Okay, well there we go.
Yeah, and
So
you
I
have
guess
to bring it up higher because the comments are.
yeah. Should I? I don't know. I've literally the setup I've got at the moment is pretty rubbish. So
Yeah, my
yeah, there we go.
lighting
That's better.
is crap.
That's better. Exalted company. I think so, Jim. I think so indeed. So I suppose what do we do, Sean? I've forgotten. It's so long. How do we start this? What we've read?
Friday reads.
Friday reads. Yeah, Friday reads live. Right. So, Sean. Well, first off, Sean, how are you doing? I didn't ask you.
I am feeling better. Generally, it's just that my breathing is up the spout when I'm not up the spout. My breathing's up the
Well, I
spout.
wouldn't breathe up the spout. It can't be very healthy for you.
When I lay down. So, and last night it was particularly bad. So I had a lot of dozing there here. So, but in general, I'm feeling better. Thank you.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, I think we've both been a bit poorly the last couple of weeks, I suppose, haven't we? It's part of the reason for my absence. I was going to say abscess, but it's part of the reason for my absence. So, all right then. Yeah. So Friday reads. What have you finished this week, Mister Standfast?
Yeah, I only really started getting back into reading a lot. I'd sort of been nursing one book, and I finished. Well, it's going to be Dracula centered here pretty well.
Uh
Um,
huh.
the new annotated Dracula by Leslie Klinger. But I only not only just read that, so like that's taken me a long time. But I've got like 5 or 6 other annotated versions that I've been going through as well. So like every page of Dracula, there's
Mm.
like 10 other pages or 15 other pages occasionally that I've read. So that's what's taken a long time, but I've enjoyed it. And then once I finished that, I went to my Patreon book club, which was The Inheritors
Oh, okay. Hmm.
by William Golding. Piece of crap. But anyway,
Well, tell it like it is.
well, I only had read Lord of the Flies long time ago, and I didn't like it. But he was somebody that I wanted to revisit, and I'm glad I have. Um, and I thought I'd reread Lord of the Flies at some point, and then this was suggested by one of the members, and I thought, yeah, great, we'll do it. And I'm glad I have. It's about Neanderthals, and it's just he he's so frustrating the way he writes, and he'll use common language that we have for certain things, and then he makes up something that you have to figure out for other things, and it's not consistent. And then at
Right.
the end he changes the focus to, and then he starts talking about dugout canoes, which you figured out what that was by one of the characters calling it log, the characters. And then there's this strange thing about telepathic pictures. I don't know what he was smoking, when he did this. And it's so incoherent to me. It just doesn't work. But the back of a writer who I had always kind of thought highly of, it says William Golding's The Inheritors gave me the impression of an earthquake in the petrified forest. Yeah, an earthquake that destroys any hope of a thing for me. But it says of the English novel, a beautifully written psychological novel about very unusual people, both complex and simple, as a novel should be. The death of Locke is the most moving scene I have read for a long time. It's like there's nothing moving about it. And that was Arthur Kiesler. And then there's other ones that I just don't get it. I don't get it. But I haven't done with him yet because I did find, I looked at his other novels, and there's one called The Pyramid that he wrote, I think, published in 1967, that's set in the 20s in an English village. So I thought, well, at least the setting would be appealing to me, so I'll try that.
Yeah.
But not immediately. So
I think he's got a trilogy, hasn't he? That that I want to read.
Yeah, I don't want to touch that unless like I say, another single short book is okay.
Yeah. Well, hang on, just before you move on, just so we don't get too far behind. Jenny says quality over quantity, referring, of course, to people in the chat. Aaron says Mr. Whippy is a reference to the Czech Easter custom. Yeah, okay. Alexis has also had a hell of a 2 weeks, so I'm sorry to hear about that, Alexis. Hope everything's all right. And yes, thank God it's Friday. And Jenny's advising you, I believe, to read smarter, Sean.
To read smarter, okay. I'm not sure what you mean. Well, this is a book club, so sometimes
it is your book club, though.
Yeah, but I agreed for the choice for somebody else, and I'm.
So you throw the choice out there, do you? And they all.
So the way it generally works was that I give 4 titles, usually on a theme, and then the members vote for which one.
Yeah.
And it usually has a few books that I've read, and then 1 or 2 that I haven't. But this month, one of the members had heard about this book and really wanted to read it, and I didn't know what I didn't come up with anything for May, so I just said, yeah, sure, because I jumped at it because I hadn't read it and I wanted to try Golding again. So, and it was short. It was very quick to read. It just took me. I started in the evening and I finished it in the afternoon the following day. So that's I have no problem with that. But it's just I don't understand his reputation. I really don't. I don't understand his reputation. You know, and I always put it to the fact that the Lord of the Flies was his first book. So, you know, it's not going to be a great book. And I always thought that I would revisit it someday. But this is a second book. So I don't know.
No, I don't know. I've only read Lord of the Flies, and I didn't mind it. So, but then I was young when I read it, right? So I was about the age, I think they were probably something like that when I read it.
I saw this as a juvenile book too. I saw this as a juvenile book. It's not an adult book, really.
Maybe it is.
What?
Maybe it is a bit of YA.
I don't think the its reputation is that. I just thought it was very, very weak as a book. But again, that's just me. And there's certain things that just don't click with me for some reason. And I don't know how. And to write something where they don't really have the characters don't really have a language, and then you have them speak. And occasionally they speak like, you know, an Oxford professor or something like that. Doesn't quite work for me. It's not that divert. It's not that different, but it's like that extreme. But it's close to it.
Yeah. No, true. Oh, it's kicking off in the comments a bit there because, you know, Jenny said read smarter, and Alexis has said, hold it. Sean is one of the smartest readers I know. Next to Steve Donahue. Oh, God, I invoke the devil. Sorry, everybody. Well, you know, I'm not going to take any offense at that, of course.
Well, I think Jenny meant that in a different way, like, you know, choose the books.
No. I'm yeah, but I mean, I'm not taking offense at Alexis's omission of, you know, another extremely smart and erudite booktuber.
I just glossed over that part.
Gareth, hey Gareth, yeah, thanks. Yeah, good to see you back in the comment section, and yeah, it's nice to be back. Actually, I missed it. I always enjoy doing the lives, but yeah, I just couldn't do it. I spent like 2 weeks almost completely deaf in one. I was gonna say one side of my face, but in 1 year, I was swollen on the right side of my face, and I had lost all sense of taste and smell, and it was horrible. And it lasted a while, and it wasn't COVID. Before anybody says it was, but it was. Well, I mean, twice I was tested, and it wasn't. So, what else we got here? So, oh, Jenny's playing chicken and saying that we should say his name twice more. So, yeah, smart booktuber Gareth thought, yeah, I might as well just. Yeah, I don't even need to be here.
Well, I will say that when I, you know, it's a weird thing because when I do a live without you, I get like the one I get viewers from both our channels that both watch us, but then there's viewers that will watch you that don't watch me. So it's the viewership was down a little bit when and I think you might notice that too, because there will be people. Booktube is a weird thing. Hear my segue here, but anyway, because the viewers are very particular sometimes of who they view.
Almost tribal, aren't they? There's a tribal element amongst it. Yeah, you were talking about that the other day, weren't you?
But we'll get to that later. But we're caught up. Let me know when we're caught up with the comments.
Hey there, good to see you. Greg's in the house. Hey, Greg. I should bring out the whip. Yes. Obviously, Alexis needs a good spanking, and that's very politically correct to me. I know what you mean, Mark. Criminale is really up there with. Yeah. I mean, of the hundreds of thousands of booktubers, they're all up there except me, right? So, and Gareth is admitting to only being a bit smart. So, all right. Yeah, we're caught up. So, is that it, or have you got more?
Well, there was one other book that I finished, and it's Dracula related again, and it is this lighting's horrible. The Drafts of Dracula, which is the.
Well, I mean, those castles didn't have very good insulation.
It's mostly the notes that he had. Anytime he jotted down for the characters' names, characteristics, the location, research, and all things like that. But it's not complete. But it was auctioned off in 1912, and eventually showed up at the Rosenbach library. And this is the second sort of version of it, edited and annotated by Robert 18 Bissing and Elizabeth Miller, who's now dead. I think Robert 18 Bissing.
Is she dead, or is she?
She died. She died just in the last couple of years, I think.
Yeah, but do they know that she's actually resting peacefully?
Well, she was one of the preeminent Dracula scholars.
That'd be kind of a cool twist in the story.
It's a really good book called Dracula Sense and Nonsense. And I do have to read this as the back of it. This is the thing.
Always good to see you get excited, Sean.
Yeah. Vlad the Impaler was the inspiration for Dracula. Hogwash. Count Dracula's castle has been found. Claptrap. Count Dracula cannot venture out in the daylight. Balderdash.
Well, I don't know about the first point, because there's got to be some relationship between Vlad and Dracula. I mean, let's face it.
That's a whole series of videos you can go into.
Yeah, but his name was Dracula, for one thing.
Yeah.
And he lived in Transylvania, so.
Yeah. it's like he did have ancestors that it talks about for there, so he has tangentially placed him there and put him there, but the whole idea of this vampire was all done way before he knew anything about Dracul and Dracula in Vlad Tepes.
Yeah, I can understand that, but I think he must have, as you said, used something of his.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it is too.
remember the wording here. Well, Vlad the Impaler was the inspiration.
Okay, yeah, all right, fair enough. So he had an idea for some undead bloke who goes around.
Vampire or wamp, the stupid name for it.
Yeah.
But this is the thing in the notes, like these little pieces of paper, when he first comes across the word Dracula, like he writes it several times as if testing it out. Is kind of neat. But anyway, it goes through all this, and it's fun to watch the evolution of the characters, how they morph into each other, the names change and combine, and also to they've added, because this is the sort of second edition to it in a sense. The other one was called Notes of Dracula, but this one now is Drafts, and they include a chapter on the manuscript. And it's really, really interesting. And I'm not going to go into too much detail here because you're going to have to come and watch Brandy and myself's video tomorrow, which is a live, and also look at because it's Dracula's birthday today. He was born May 26, 1897.
And where is this live?
It's going to be on my channel. The live, yeah. At 6 p.m. It's up on the thing. Somebody made a horrendous thumbnail for it. It's just, I don't know. But anyway, so no, this was just fabulous. If it's not for somebody who's just say, oh, I kind of like Dracula. It's somebody who really likes Dracula and really wants to sink their teeth into things.
Just someone like KD Books, for example.
I'll pass on that that answer.
I don't think he watches my channel. I wouldn't worry about it. But well, I mean, no. To be fair, the video he says he doesn't like it, so I think it's fair to bring it up. I mean,
yeah, well, yeah, but the reasons why he says and stuff like that is just sort of absolutely. It's like, give me some actual reasons. Like, I can understand that you don't like it and stuff like this, but the offhand say something, it's just, you've misunderstood a lot of the stuff. And I think I went back and looked at the comments because he's saying, oh, it's misogynist and all this, and it's like somebody's saying, well, actually, I think it was a female commenter who says, I actually read it as that Mina was the stronger character that brought these people together, these idiots, and organized them. It is whether Stoker sort of meant that or not. It's not. It's like, yeah, there's the attitudes of the time.
Sorry, I just got a notification that I had a comment on that video that I put out, and I was like really confused because I put it to unlisted. So I suppose perhaps if someone was already watching it.
Yeah.
Because I've decided to not release it, at least at the moment. I'll let you watch it, of course, but I just think, I'm just courting trouble. I'm just going to stick to the books, just because, I don't want to make a mistake. But no, I mean, it sounds fascinating. I'll certainly be tuning in tomorrow. What time is it? 6 p.m. UK time.
Yeah. And I also, like, at some point will be, I still have some loose ends to clear up with these annotated versions and stuff like that. And I'm going to do a separate video on talking about each one and the merits and failings of each one, I think. And it's mostly because the failings are because people didn't have information, but and I'll explain why. And because I have about 10 or a dozen things that I'm going to compare, That's why it's taken me so long to reread Dracula this time. And it's like, and there's probably a new one coming out, a new annotated version by Dacre Stoker, who is the great grandnephew of Brom. So, and that'll include a lot of new stuff. The really interesting thing in here too was that after the first edition of this came out, they talked about the books that he consulted, and in the notes will have the author's name, the title of the book, and they knew that he used the library in Whitby. They knew he used the library in the British Library, British Museum at the time, and the London Library, the subscription library. So some librarian started pulling off books at the London Library and realized there's Margellania in Stoker's handwriting, and this is from like 1890s, okay? And there's one book on Yorkshire dialect that has a clipping of Henry Irving in America that has a handwritten notation with the date in the newspaper it's from Stoker. And it was put in there probably as a bookmark, and it's still sitting in the bloody book after 100 and some years. That's just amazing.
Yeah, that is pretty cool, isn't it?
Anyway, that's me. I could go on with this, but you'll have to watch my video, his birthday video.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, let's just go through the comments quickly. Unfortunately, Jenny's gonna miss it. She's being forced to socialize again. Well, actually, I'll be socializing tomorrow as well, but I should be back by then. We've got a food festival in town, so I thought I'd go and check it out. So,
well, it'll be up as a video after anyway. So,
well, that's true. Yeah. Aaron, to ward off Dracula, show him a crucifix. To ward off KD Book, show him the collected works of Shakespeare. How do we ward off Steve, though?
Cormac McCarthy's books.
Oh, Cormac McCarthy. Yeah, or who's the woman he doesn't like? Rooney.
What?
Sally Rooney, is it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Steve will be disappointed. To this day, I've still never read any Shakespeare. Now, Jenny, I have to take issue with this. You went through the UK school system. How is that possible? You must have read some, even if it wasn't like the whole thing. You must have read a sonnet or at least a part of a play, surely. Yeah, who is this Jack Edwards? When I made that video that I've since removed, he kept popping up at the top, and he's got like millions of.
The guy is a complete a-hole. Like, but he's got millions of subscribers, and I never heard of him until Steve mentioned him, and he does come up on everything, and people watch him as if he's an oracle, and he's just like, the stuff that he says, you just go, you clearly have not read this, but he pretends. And I love these things. And that's the other, I'll just say this because it comes to mind. I was thinking of another video to do, and I popped up, and somebody was saying, how, and this has had millions of views, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, how I've read 50 books so far in 2023. And
it was January.
What?
And it was January.
No, like now. It was just
okay.
That's we're in the last, like in the first half of 2023, sort of. So I was tempted to go, I have only read 60 books since then, because and the way you do that is get long COVID.
Well, I've read 49.
So you can't read too many.
I read 49 up to this date, so I would have done at least 50 by the 6-month mark.
Yeah, so there's your video that you'll get millions of views on, of saying how you've done that with it.
Well, how did I do it? I just read instead of watching TV or whatever, So, yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. But you see, I'm in one of those unusual situations that I never watched BookTube. I never watched it before I joined, yeah. I mean, because every time I searched anything to do with books, it was always, giggly young people talking about stuff I had no interest in. I had
Yeah.
no idea there were such doddery old fools like you and Steve and whatever that I could feel like, a kinship with. And I thought I was going to be something a bit unusual, oh yeah, this kind of like middle-aged guy talking about stuff, and then found out there's a ton of us. So, well, I say ton of us. Within our community, there's a few of us, but in the wider, as my search today showed a bit, there aren't that many of us, at least. So Alexis liked some of Shakespeare's sonnets. Tom recommends showing Steve a copy of Ulysses to ward him off. Jenny says Shakespeare wasn't on the curriculum for some reason. Huh? Well, I know you live in Scotland, Jenny, but are you actually Scottish? I mean, did you do the Scottish Highers? Did they substitute Shakespeare for Walter Scott or Abbey Burns? Aaron, was holding a Stephen King novel on the other hand. And Greg has achieved finishing 56 books and 34 audiobooks this year. So, Greg, why aren't you making a video and shouting to the world about it and telling us all how you did it?
Yeah, no, like I was just going to say, I've only done this, and I've only done 60 because I've had COVID. I could have done a lot more. I was going to flip it on its edge. It's like, it's really funny. But yeah, it's not that big of a thing.
It's kind of a strange irony, though, your situation, I suppose, because you read more before you had COVID, but you've got more opportunity to read since having COVID.
Yes.
So that's, yeah.
But I've got less time. I've got less time that I have to read in average because of the COVID, even though I'm not working. See, when I was working, I'd come home and I'd usually, I could, if I wanted to, read 4 hours every night, 4 or 5 hours. I'm lucky if I get 3.5 or 4 hours. And on really good days, I might get 5 or 6 hours of actual reading time in a 24-hour period. But for the last month, pretty well, I've only had 2.5 or 3 hours reading time per day. So, so it's a lot less.
Yeah. I think I read more. Do I read more since I've been on BookTube? I don't know. I started off gung ho. It has kind of decreased a little bit as we've gone on, but I find I'm reading much larger works than maybe I would have done in the past, or at least I'm feeling better about approaching such things, probably because I'm doing them in buddy reads, and it is a lot more fun. But then, of course, I might read a bit less. Hi, Andrew. Good to see you.
Hi, Andrew.
Greg recommends retirement as the way to achieve 56 books and 34 audiobooks in 6 months. Jenny did Burns. Barely got through the stand grades. No way I could have made it to the Highers. Oh, well. Who knows, Jenny? Come on. You might sell yourself short there. Alexis, hi, Greg, Gareth, and Alan. Alan's here. I didn't see Alan, did I? I don't know. Zippity Doodah, Zippity My, what a wonderful day. Song by a cricket. Okay, Alexis. I don't know if we can sing that song anymore. Can we? No, probably not.
Well, I'll just do it in a Burl Ives voice. That's all.
So there we go, and that's it. Is it for your reading, or?
That's all I finished. Yeah. And like I say, I finished Dracula, and I read The Inheritors, and then I finished I started and finished the drafts, and I'm in the midst of reading something else now as well, but we'll get to that, I guess.
Yeah, it's annoying because I would have had 3, but I didn't manage to finish. So the first thing I finished this week, and actually I really, really enjoyed it, was Stendhal's Charterhouse of Parma. I thought it was.
I gotta catch up on that. I've not read that. That'll be a new one.
As it stands at the moment, I have actually read something you haven't. I might actually read it again next week, so I can say at least I could do your standard answer. Yeah, Mark, not only have I read it, but it's a reread for me for the 27th time. So, actually, yeah, because you did a video on rereads. We'll talk about that later. But I find that, I think I said to you yesterday, it's a really interesting video, but I just find it. I would find it difficult to do. I cannot imagine that many people have read. Well, we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later because it is a good video worth talking about. But I read it and I really enjoyed it, and I think you'll enjoy it too. I mean, it can get a bit slower from time to time with like the love interest aspect wasn't like super interesting to me, but the story, the wider story it was good fun. It had kind of, there's a couple of prison escapes. There's one very big kind of daring escape that goes on. There's a whole section at Waterloo, actually, again as well, like in Les Mis, and the characters are quite interesting. The main character, again, I don't know what it is with like books at the time, but there are a lot of these young male characters who are kind of annoying. In fact, really annoying. I'm thinking of Lucien from what's it called? Lost Illusions.
Well,
And
let's
then,
use the French phrase, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose.
right.
The more the things change, the more they stay the same.
The more they stay the same. Yeah, well, that's true.
In every generation, there rises above everybody else an annoying male character and female character and female people. I'm trying to channel Buffy the Vampire Slayer and paraphrase.
But yeah, I mean, I've had a few, especially in the French literature. Actually, I don't know if I noticed it as much in. It's like they seem to have all these young male characters who are somewhat helpless, and they rely so much on other people doing stuff for them, and they just drag those poor people into their own messes, and it ends up ruining loads of lives, and it happens all the time. To be honest, all these books, they're just basically one book. You don't really need to read it, actually, Sean. So.
Yeah, but Bleak House has that too, and I forget the character's name. And I
don't know. I haven't read Bleak House, but I'd heard that. I suppose, but it's a contemporary, probably, isn't it? Bleak House, pretty much. 40 something, maybe 30,
50 something. I think I can't remember. I just did it in that video, and I can't remember the date now.
But I did really enjoy it. It's kind of cool. I mean, it's all. I mean, it's weird because he's French, but the main characters and everything going on is in Italy. It follows like the Italian aristocracy, and though they have, some of them have revolutionary French leanings and Napoleon and all sorts. But yeah, it's good, and I enjoyed it so much. I did get the red and the black, and I want to give that a go as well.
I do want to give Red and the Black another go, but unless I read that one and I don't like it, then I'll put the Red and the Black aside. So
yeah, I mean, I can't imagine you not liking it. I mean, I can imagine there'll be parts you don't like. I mean, it's hard to have a book that's like 100%, fantastic, but generally, yeah, the story's good, I think. I mean, maybe. I guess there could be some argument of it tailing off a bit towards the end, maybe, but and it did have a sense of it being maybe a little bit rushed to a conclusion, perhaps because it does. It starts off like a kind of Les Mis, like setting this kind of epic, and then it maybe contracts a bit. But I don't know. It was a 5-star read for me. I really enjoyed it. I like his style. I liked his humor. I like the fact he swears. There's several moments in it where it's just like, just F off or go F yourself. And it's just written F and then there's a line from the translator. But it's just like, which I quite like that actually in a book. I mean, it's 1839, this one. So
you need Brian Blessed to do the audiobook of it.
Sorry?
Get Brian Blessed to do the audiobook.
Yeah. So, it's nice. I had my school was last week in London, and one of my colleagues brought me back a souvenir because they visited Rochester. And speaking of Dickens, they brought back this nice little bookmark from the I guess the Dickens Museum or whatever. He does have a terrible signature, doesn't he? I think.
I've seen
I'm
it.
not.
I've seen facsimiles of it, I should say, but
Yeah, I'm not
I,
a huge fan of the signature there. You would have thought, that would be better, wouldn't it? Sorry. And then next up that I finished was The String of Pearls, or the Sweeney Todd story by James Malcolm Rymer. And I mean, because you heard, and we had quite a conversation about it. It's a story, I think, that everybody knows, or at least I thought that until we saw in the chat a few people. There were twists for them in it, right? I went in it and there weren't, probably really any surprises. But the only surprise was actually just how much I enjoyed it and how good I thought it was. Because we read it with Greg read it with us, and you didn't read it this time, but you've read it before, haven't you? So
yeah, I've read. Well, that's the thing. I thought I read the earlier version of the Wordsworth, but it's probably I didn't, because whatever I read did say that Reimer was the author, and by the sounds of it, Vin was saying that in the introduction it says that their first edition didn't know.
Yeah, because in Goodreads, it has their first edition as the default one, and it says Anon.
Okay, so it must have been something else, another version that I read.
Yeah, but it was good fun. I mean, we discussed, and obviously you were knowledgeable on it, but we discussed like the kind of loose ends and the way, some things didn't quite go together, and perhaps they may well have been, parts of it may have been written by other authors, because it was a serialized story. But yeah, it surprised me. I thought it was one of the best books from this experience, or this reading group, in terms of readability and like pure fun. When we read things like Mysteries of Adolfo, it had, it was all right, but it dragged and dragged. And I think Greg mentioned the other day his like top 3 books from that reading group were this was number 3, and I think he'd mentioned The Monk, and I forget, Greg, if you're still watching, what the other one was. But they definitely got I don't want to say necessarily better as we've gone on, but certainly more readable, and maybe that's because the language is more coming up to date. And I think the fact that this is a penny dreadful as well, because it was for mass consumption, there isn't any pretension. It's not full of like annoying poetry that's just jammed in there to show off the author's, dubious talents and whatnot. Yeah, Frankenstein. Yeah, thanks, Greg. Yeah, it was Frankenstein. So it was Frankenstein, The Monk by Lewis, and this one. And I think I agree with you there, and in that order as well. I mean, I really enjoyed The Monk. I thought that was an excellent book, and I'm sure you've read that as well, Sean. Probably reread it 5 times.
No, I've only read it once.
Only? Oh, okay. Oh, you're slipping. So that's what I have read, and what I'm currently reading. I might as well carry on with that until we go to you, because I'm only currently reading really one thing at the moment. Is The War in Heaven, which I really thought it's not a very long book. It's by Charles Williams, one of the Inklings that we talked about. So he was, one of the friends of Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. And it's a strange book, but it's good as well. It's kind of about Satan worshippers and demonic sacrifices and the Holy Grail and the murder mystery and all sorts of stuff packed into it. But I just don't know yet how it's going to end. And as I say, I felt so close, but I probably finish it later tonight, but I can't really talk about it anymore until I finish it, because everything can change by the end. So that's what I'm currently reading. Let me just quickly check the chat, and we'll come back to what you're reading. So Gareth is looking forward to retirement. It's not going to be that long, is it, Gareth? The Spaminator. Why Why do you all have to do this while my alter ego is at work? I can only hide in the bathroom for so long. We feel honored to be taken into the cubicles with you. Aaron, I think you can sing it as long as you're not blacked up. Oh, okay. I guess this is Zippity Doodah, probably. Spaminator, tell the boss you're constipated. Well, could do that. Spaminator, remember Steve's rule. Show him the stream and pretend it's a Steve stream. Well, yes, yeah. There's no Steve with us today, though. Alexis, I'm one of the bosses. But the other one is scary lady with tattoos that yells. The best policy is to put on a dress, brightly colored wig, and a stick on tattoos, and then yell back at her. Or tell her you need a mental health day. Yeah, I've seen this in the UK and stuff. These mental health days sounds kind of interesting. I don't know how it works in terms of you just turn around to say I need a mental health day and it doesn't count. I don't know how that really works.
Probably like places where I've worked, you had to have something to say that you have mental health issues.
So you can't just say I need a mental health day. I'm tired.
Well, places that I worked, it's like anyway. It's I don't even want to go.
You worked at the NHS.
Yeah, and that's and I asked the one thing, and I was saying, like there were so many things that were for that they set up for females and for people that were married and people who had children and all these things. And I says, well, okay, where are the things for people that are single, and don't have children? And they're saying, well, they don't need anything. And I'm going, why? Because you're allowing somebody to go off to an event because or their partner's going off to an event and they've got to stay and do this, which is all understandable. But then I say, well, I want a day because something's come up and there's an event I want to go to. No, you can't. So I said, that's discrimination. And that just all of a sudden they almost exploded at that word.
Well, it's one of those things, right? Like here, they have maternity leave for up to 4 years. 4 years maternity leave. And, I was thinking about it. Like, I mean, and I don't think I don't know. It might be possible, but it's certainly not done really here that paternity leave comes in anything like that. Or that I don't know if the father can substitute the mother, as it were, and take a 4-year paternity leave instead of the mother. Now, obviously, the pay isn't that great because they get one amount, and that's either spread over 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, right? But it's the same amount. But their jobs and everything are protected for 4 years. So it's one of those really weird things that you can substitute somebody for 4 years. So someone can be in the job for 1 year, get pregnant, go on maternity leave for 4 years. You can do the job for 4 years, and then when they come back, you're booty. Well, I mean, the companies generally in these small areas generally like try to keep them in some capacity. In the school I worked at, most of the people have been able to stay that have been in, or they just get shunted around when somebody else goes on maternity leave. But 4 years. But if you're a married man with no children or a single man, you're working the full career, right? I mean, the funny thing is as well in Czech language, maternity leave is actually called materska dovolená, which means maternity holiday. So, I'm sure a lot of people will dispute that, but it does seem sad that like they don't offer childless employees the opportunity, say, once every 15 years or something, to have a year off, to maybe like a sabbatical, to study or to do something. Because I think that would be, because you can get burnt out definitely as a teacher, and I think it's a bit unfair that it doesn't work.
Well, the place where I worked, like when I had shingles for the second time, and it took a long time for them to get a cocktail of pain relief for me that I could even do anything, and that took about 5 or 6 months. and I was up in like a thing for the company. They wanted to get rid of me. I had a union representative there. But the greatest thing was, and I mentioned this in the meeting here, that the HR person had been working for the company for over 8 years, but they were actually only on their job for less than 1 year of that time, because every time they come back and she was pregnant again. Every time she was pregnant, but that was okay. And I sort of said that. I said, well, geez, I guess if I was female, I could have just got pregnant and then I wouldn't need to worry about this. And they just freaked out. But the thing was, they're trying to get rid of me because I've got an actual health that I didn't choose, that I did not choose. She chose to have a child every time she goes on maternity leave.
Well, I don't know. Accidents can happen, Sean.
Yeah, but 5 times during an 8-year period, then you seriously have a problem. But anyway, it's just, it was that kind of thing where one thing was okay, that was a choice, and they were trying to get rid of me for a 5-month period. Meanwhile, she wasn't even there. She'd been paid and her job was secure for 7 years.
Well, just imagine if she had been Czech. She had 5 children.
Yeah.
So if they were consecutive like that, she could have, like, I guess if you overlap, but she could have been off like 15 years.
But yeah, so she'd be ready to come back. Oh, I'm going to be retiring next week.
Come back. I'm going to retire soon. Yeah.
No, it's just that things don't quite make sense at times. So, and that didn't make sense to me. Like, okay, I'm not like, in no way I was saying that she wasn't allowed to do this. What I was saying was, if you're allowed to do that, then for something like this, I should be okay, because the doctors were saying we're nearing the end of this, and it should be fine. But there's going to be relapses, because there's going to be things for the first year or so that you got to adjust. But they were basically saying that if I miss one more day, I'm out.
Well, it's this whole, like, no more than, what is it, like 3 occurrences of sickness in 6 months or something. Like, you can control this stuff. It's bizarre. I mean, yes, people do take the piss. Sorry. Well, it's my channel. I can say that if I want.
Yeah, no, I would say she definitely did. No, like, you don't. It's not accidental. You've purposely chosen to do this. And it was like some other guys that took paternity leave, and I actually knew their wives, a couple of them, and this was the same place, and they were allowed to do this, and the wives were pissed off because all they did was sit and watch or play video games all the time, and they were getting paid to do that. They wouldn't do anything. They weren't there to bond with their child. They weren't there. They just wanted to play. They wanted the time off to play video games.
Who, the fathers?
Yeah. And they took advantage of it to do that.
Yeah. No, I noticed it. I mean, I noticed things here, like, and I don't know whether it's just that if your young child is ill, that it's a case of wanting your mother over your father, maybe, or something like that. I don't know, but it's like quite often, the married women at work, they'll be off because their child is sick. Yeah, you don't really hear that the husband goes off because he probably earns more, right? So, like, they divvy it up, and somehow it's not, obviously worth as much, so to speak. But I think there should be a form of perhaps sharing, because even if teaching isn't a particularly well-paid profession, it's an important one, and it's one of those professions as well that does impact your co-workers when you don't go in, because they have to do the work that you aren't there to do. Like sometimes in these big companies and stuff, there's so many people, it somehow gets done, doesn't it? It's not like absolutely impactful, but yeah, I don't know. Let's just go through the comments quickly. Early happy birthday to you, Gareth, of course, for Sunday, if you're going to be 52. Retire at 120. Yeah. Tony thinks that's optimistic. Alexis doesn't even believe retirement's a thing. The Spaminator, any suggestions? There's something wrong. Are we suggesting there's something wrong with your mental health? No. Are either of you doing any deep dives? Michael K. Vaughan is doing 6 or 8. Says he'll probably die before he finishes. Well, I think Sean's very much deep diving through the dark realms of Dracula. No? That would be a deep
I
dive.
wouldn't even call what I'm doing a deep dive yet, but I am. It's going to be an ongoing thing.
So it's
my view of a deep dive is not what everybody's view is. So yes.
Well, I would say reading a lot around the subject as you are doing is a reasonable definition of a deep dive, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean,
how could you dive deeper?
Well, to read more and take longer, because I'm only, like I say, I'm only reading the annotated versions. There's about another dozen books or so that have been written about Dracula and vampires and the folklore. Well, more than a dozen, but that I have, plus biographies of Stoker and reading his other books. To me, that's a deep dive, but that's going to take a long time, and I'm finally starting this, and I'm going to be continuing off and on with this project at some point. But reading just the complete reading 3 or 4 novels, like I'm not singling anybody out here, but I've heard people say I'm doing a deep dive in this video of something, and they're doing a 20-minute video. You can't do a deep dive in a 20-minute video.
They mean the video is a deep dive rather than they're just talking about a deep dive, as it were.
Yeah. No, it's just the term deep dive, because you do see stuff that people are saying, "Oh, I'm doing a deep dive," and you look at the length of the video and it's 30 minutes, and I'm going,
well, it is one of those terms bandied around willy-nilly throughout BookTube, isn't it? Yeah. 5 times in 8 years isn't an accident, it's a going concern.
Yeah.
Jenny thinks that's somebody with a game plan. The Spaminator lives in the south. Or be careful there, Spaminator, giving away your approximate location there. There are no mental health days. I could saw my leg off with a chainsaw and only get a 10-minute break.
Yeah, that sounds like British companies. Like there is.
No, I think he means the south as in the US.
Oh, wow, that sounds.
I'm guessing. Spaminator, yeah, Spaminator is American, I'm sure. Yeah. I think he means the south, the old south, the deep south, I'm guessing. Hi, Francisco. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Yes. Oh, greetings to California then from Central Europe and the UK. Yeah. So, what are you currently reading, Mr. Standfast?
I am currently reading, if I can find it. I started today, but it's because I've been really tired. Is the first Fu Manchu, The Mystery of Fu Manchu, or as the American title, I think, is The Insidious Fu Manchu.
Oh, really? The American title is The Insidious?
Yeah, it's different. I think it's Insidious. If Greg's still here, he'll be able to say.
It's not the other way around?
What?
It's not the other way around?
No. I'd forgotten how sort of wonderful it is, how wonderfully crappy writing it is. The first chapter just goes on, but you can tell by, like, if you can see that drawing, it's fabulous. They're in motion, and that's the way the writing is. It's just fabulous for that. It has all this other baggage, but that's, it's just, and it's basically it's a pastiche of Sherlock Holmes. That's what it all is. And Fu Manchu is Dr. Moriarty. Sorry if I ruined it for everybody.
I think everybody's read it though by now. It's like the 26th.
Yeah, well, I still got to the end of the month. Yeah. Edgar has been bothering me, but and I'll be finished, and I'll be finished with the reread of Bulldog Drummond as well by then. by the end of the month, and I'll have a video out on the last day of the month talking about it. Edgar will be front and center making his remarks.
The Spaminator is extremely American. Geo Craftsman says Michael Tabor needs to stop torturing himself with all these reading projects. Okay.
It's like I have a huge TBR, and I know that I probably, if my health gets for it, I'm not going to do it. But I don't care.
Sounds like a naughty bit of booktube, isn't it?
What?
I got a huge TBR. Sorry, everybody. Right. Yeah. He does have a lot going on. I think, but it's just one of those things. It becomes, I think it is easy to kind of get too caught up in things involved. I keep saying to myself almost on a daily basis now, I'm pulling out of all these reading events, right? I'm going to pull out because I just want to read now what I want to read, when I want to read it. But then, I'm looking at, I really enjoyed June on the Range. It's probably my favorite event that I didn't come up with. And I can't pull out of that, as it were. Well, I don't know, sometimes I just think, it's too much going on. I'm not reading in a natural manner or a manner that's natural to me and this kind of stuff, but it doesn't matter. Well, I'm really enjoying it.
It's like I joined with once Brandy at the Book Collecting said about the vampire stuff, and I wanted, like, I've been collecting this stuff for about 10 years or more, and I just think, well, I'll get to it. And then, these things come up, and that's where the bad thing is too, is like, well, that was on my plans to read at some point. Here's an opportunity. Do I take it? Or not?
Yeah. I never said the spam Olea was in the South. Nice try. Yeah, almost, Jenny. We almost got him. Greg says yes, the insidious Fu Manchu. Jenny advises that if Edgar keeps getting out of line, just have Paddington shove marmalade sandwiches in his mouth. Well, I don't know if it'll do much good because he hasn't got a bottom jaw, Jenny. Yeah. Okay, they're banging on the door now in the toilet cubicle. I can't possibly make it smell any worse in here without hurting myself. Bye for now. See you later, Spaminator. Aaron's finished Fu Manchu, and he's currently reading Bulldog Drummond whilst listening to The Three Imposters, which, of course, is Roger Hoteb's pick for his book club. Alexis advises you to stop bragging. Aaron's listening to Three Imposters at night and reading Sapper during the day. And Fu Manchu, according to Geo Craftsman, sounds a very entertaining read. So, yeah.
It is. But, like, it is definitely, there's a whole, and I'm not even going to get into it now because I do plan on doing all the
deep dive.
Well, the Fu Manchu book, but then talk about the Yellow Peril aspect of the thing, and that you can't do justice to it with just a little bit, because I've got one book. Well, I've actually got a couple books if I can find them all on the Yellow Peril, and Christopher Frayling has done a really, really good one that I've sort of dipped into and out of for a couple of years, and that's why I figured you can do justice to this,
because I think a lot of people would probably just assume when you mention like Yellow Peril books, they would probably assume that Charlie Chan would be in there, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and Charlie Chan is a completely different matter.
Completely different matter. Not what anyone would think at all.
Yeah, and that is actually going to be on the docket. Edgar does want to do the first Charlie Chan book because we both have the Klinger annotated edition, and that's and the Philo Vance.
The Philo Vance is in there as well, yeah.
Yeah, so I've already read the Philo Vance, but I'm going to read the annotated version because that'll be fun to do.
You could keep Charlie Chan for Dick Timber.
Could, yeah. I it was suggested, and Edgar was suggesting it too, and others, that to have Fu Manchu and Charlie Chan together and contrast them. I think you had even said that.
Yeah,
But
I did.
like,
Yeah.
it's like it's a great idea, but I definitely was not up to doing that in to contrast them, to do justice with it. So it's I think in like what I'd like to do is read these series in tandem, and maybe another series that is another sort of
I was going to say, what's another well-known yellow? I can't say it properly. Yellow Peril work.
I off the top of my head I can't, but what I was thinking of, one that would be put in would be Mr. Moto, which
Yeah.
is not, but it's similar. It's close enough. By Mark Hand, I think it is. Those three, I was always thinking of doing those three together, and to talk about that. And I
Yeah.
think it would be kind of interesting. But there was so much stuff in the late 1800s. That was a lot of it. A lot of it is trashy. Well, uh, Fu Manchu is trashy written, but it's just fun. Like the first chapter, if you're not hooked by the first chapter, you definitely don't like the style of writing. It's it's fabulous.
Yeah, I was just googling. I mean, it goes through all the racist, stuff, and the what do you call it? Resulting from the Boxer Rebellion and all this kind of stuff. But it's not giving me.
I don't know how many series. That's the thing that there are, because I
There we
know
go.
there's
Literary Yellow Peril. You've got Fu Manchu, Sax Roma, The Adventures of. Oh no, that's not right. It doesn't really say, actually. I know there's a short story by Jack London, actually.
yeah,
Um,
there's lots of single works, but
I
yeah, I
remember.
don't know about series. That's the thing. I'm not sure.
Actually, H.P. Lovecraft does a short story um,
Horizon.
called He in 1926, and it says the protagonist, white man, is allowed to see the future of the planet Earth and sees yellow men, in inverted commas, triumphantly dancing among the ruins of a white man's world. Terrible, isn't it? But I think I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
Depends
but
on
you
how
see
that.
here it says cinematic Yellow Peril, and it goes on about presented contradictory images of East Asian men, i.e., the malevolent master criminal Dr. Fu Manchu and the benevolent master detective Charlie Chan. I think that's kind of, I don't know. I wouldn't have put. I can see. I don't know. I can see maybe a passing, like, relevance, perhaps, but yeah, in terms of character, he is in no way a peril. So
Yeah, no,
sorry,
it's
what
just
was
I think it's an interesting thing to do, but it has like that's why I'm not going to touch on it really much. Just acknowledge it when I talk about it, and not go into too much detail, because it's something that's another project that I have potentially for the future.
yeah, don't know if I can show him. Where are you? Oh, see, so camera shy, runs away. What are you doing? There you go. I've got one of his things on me. Right, there you go. Yeah. Let's go through what we've missed here. Alexis says, "Quit bragging." Okay. Oh yeah, because that's about you whipping out and shaking your big TBR at poor innocent girls, apparently. What other projects are coming up besides June on the Range, and which you two are doing? Well, in June, I think it's pretty much only June on the Range for me. The French thing continues, of course, and that will continue with Phantom of the Opera. But again, I don't think it's that big though, is it?
Phantom of the Opera? No, it's about 300 and some pages,
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
all right then.
But
Because,
then you might get the essential an annotated version that Leonard Wolf did, and he did the Dracula as well. He did a thing, but anyway, yeah. But then there's BookTube at War that we're doing
in July. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm. That is going to be. I'm sort of glad now that what I chose was short stories, Future Wars, because then I can truncate a little bit and try to catch up on what I've missed here, like with Charterhouse of Parma and my other reads that I'm doing, like the Zola, the Strangers and Brothers, the Dance to the Music of Time. I don't know if you noticed, I got the third omnibus that somebody sent me, and they've also sent me the first omnibus of the Forsyth saga, so I can start that at some point as well. And then August, are we going to do that? That I guess is the burning question. Are we going to be doing August of Adventure?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I've even come up with a couple of reads. So yeah, I that's my favorite event that I do.
but we're also going to be doing, I thought, maybe Faulkner in August.
We are doing Faulkner in August. Yeah. Stay tuned for that, everybody. We are definitely going to do that, yeah. But what I do want to read, you mentioned it, enjoying it, but I want to read it. Oh, I can't get it. It's not too bad, I suppose. Hang on a sec.
Oh yes, yeah. To serve them all my days, yeah.
Yeah.
See, that could potentially be done for BookTube.
BookTube at War. That's what I was thinking. But I've also got that other Dell the Field for BookTube at War. But I'm looking forward to BookTube at War. But I'm not. I was disappointed by the fact that they were up for introducing nonfiction, because I think it's a different. To me, it's a different thing. You know, when you've got Historathon running,
yeah.
You know, at the time you can fit in non-fiction war stuff there, and I don't think I look at it as being it's a different thing to me. War fiction and war non-fiction is not necessarily, I don't think, compatible. It's a different. There's a different.
I thought I was going to get kicked out for doing future war fiction, fake war fiction, proto science fiction. But that seems to be acceptable. Considering we were even asked to be part of this, we just all of a sudden were part of this, weren't we?
That's true. It did kind of just appear, didn't it? But it was. I mean, it's definitely something that I would have been interested in.
This is an example of reading some stuff that I've had for a while that is just a perfect excuse to do. And also, too, this is another excuse during that time to read Clifford Simak's Air War stories, and I've got part of them or most of them. So, yeah, that'll be just perfect.
Yeah, but I don't know. As I say, it's just slightly. I just think it detracts from it a little bit having non-fiction in there. But that's my opinion. Apparently, Joe Carson said there was a Yellow Peril book from the 1890s where China dug a hole to America and they all popped out and invaded the country. Well, yeah, actually, it's funny you said that, because I remember when I was at school in the early 80s and we'd play in the sand pit.
Yeah, you dig your way to China.
Yeah, we had our school matron. She would, it was in Bermuda, and she would come, she would come around when we were digging in the sand pit. She'd be like, "Careful there, boys! You don't want to dig away to China."
Yeah.
There'll be little Chinamen popping out, and she was a woman of color in Bermuda. You see, it's funny, but nobody thought anything of it. You
No,
know,
yeah, it
if
was
you said,
always.
"Oh, you have little Chinaman popping out of the hole in the sand thing," it was just kind of like, I don't know. I guess I see it being maybe slightly problematic now, but I think it was different time then. I don't know. It was different. Yeah, we've seen. Huh. Yeah, see, Greg's trying to one up you there with your big TBR. Greg's got a massive TBR.
Yeah, well,
Well, I was going to ask you actually, Sean. Sorry, go on. What were you going to say?
no, I just saying that. Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I noticed Vin has been going on about the what's it called? Book Trek. Is Babylon 5-a-thon coming back?
I possibly, yeah. I haven't really, because I didn't really complete it last year. That's the thing. So, and nobody was really interested in it. So maybe I'll pass. Maybe another time I probably will do it, but I don't think right now. But I just sort of thought, because I watched too much BookTube. So if everybody's doing Star Trek videos, then that's fine, because then I don't have to watch any BookTube.
Yeah. That's true. Um,
But it was really funny. Michael K. Vaughan did a really good video of showing all the Star Trek books that were, from like 1967 up to 1979. And it was like, I always thought there was way more than that. And it's like, I'm watching this and I'm going, yeah, I read that. I read that. No, I haven't read that, but there's like 3 or 4 books out of all those that I haven't read in
Yeah.
way in the past, in the late 70s and early 80s. It was just really weird. But but I'll never repeat that, because it's bad for my reputation.
And I don't know. I mean, Alexa says it's Star Trek Classics or Summer Project that I think Steve started. I think Vin started it. If it's just Book Trek, I think that's Vin.
Yeah.
Vin from Revenant Reads' baby. So, or maybe they did it together. I don't remember, but I know Vin's definitely the one who kind of pushes it out there. Would Catch 22 be considered a war book? Yes, it would. Faulkner in August has known to Steve.
You spelled it wrong, Aaron. You've spelt it wrong, Aaron. That's a hint.
Catch 22 is one of Gareth's white whales. Summer's here. Hey, Summer. Good to see you. Hope you're well. Now I see good omens. People hidden underground spying on everyone else. Yeah. It could have been worse, Mark. It could have been Australians armed with cans of Castlemaine Forex boomerangs appearing from the hole. Yes, I suppose that's true. See you later, Greg. Nice to see you. Complete with battle kangaroos. Yes. Oh, the Australians jumping out. Yeah. Vin is the captain of the ship, but there are a few co-hosts. Yeah, I thought so. I was in it for the first year, and it was nice. It was interesting, but I'm just not naturally. For me, science fiction is one of those things I unconsciously enjoy. Like, I don't necessarily think about, for example, War of the Worlds or something, like being in the same category as Star Trek books, maybe, that kind of thing, that there would be like. So I do read science fiction, but I don't go out of my way to read science fiction. I tried New Worlds November last year, and I enjoyed what I read, and I'll probably do it if it runs again this year. But a monthly thing for me is enough. It's amazing we get on so well, Sean, considering I don't really read any science fiction.
Well, here's a question for everybody who is into science fiction, because the term science fiction, well, it was really early 1800s.
We're not going down this road again, are we?
No. It's just because the term science fiction was coined basically to a certain extent in the 1920s, and then like what we call science fiction now is based on what they created and developed now. So can you call something that's before that, like War of the Worlds, science fiction, or is is it something a little different because it has other elements? All these things, they all have other elements, because now when somebody writes science fiction, they write based on, like, 100 years almost of what has developed, and guidelines. Because once Hugh Gernsback termed what science fiction was, and then John W. Campbell then added his 50 cents to it or whatever, people began to write with those guidelines, which were different than Edgar Rice Burroughs and all those before. It's like this series that I've got of like is pre, all that, and it's like proto science fiction in a sense, the terms. But anyway, it's an interesting thing. Can you call that actually science fiction?
Well, Gareth, you can. Everything exists before the term is coined. Rock and roll, soul music, it's the same thing. I suppose. I don't know enough about it.
It's going to have different elements in it. So that's the thing. It's going to have different elements, because it's an interesting thing, because the work is different. But anyway, it was because that's why I was saying that maybe you like H.G. Wells and you like that stuff, because it's not as rigid in the description of science fiction as we have now.
I enjoy science and reading about science, and I enjoy the kind of, for example, with the time machine, him getting it to work, and then the trip and the adventure of it and all this kind of stuff. But I think part of my problem is, to me, the time machine is kind of maybe believable to some degree, if that makes sense. Whereas sometimes all these, like, I don't know, space operas or whatever, and monsters and these kind of aliens with 10 heads and this stuff is just a bit. I don't know. I find it's like with fantasy. I struggle with fantasy as well. I struggle with anything that requires a huge amount of, like, imagination or a big suspension of disbelief.
That's the thing. It's like any genre. There's just such a wide range of everything, and that kind of stuff. The space opera, the bug-eyed monsters, the beings, is one section of it, and that's the and this is for Gareth's benefit. That's sci-fi, but no, it's just all part of it, and it's.
Yeah, I think J. Carson has a point there. Yeah.
I can't read. Can you read that?
Genre names are most useful for grouping together outlying works into a category in retrospect. I think that can be true.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, but it's just that you can, like, once you look at sort of what are the biggies of science fiction in the last 50 or 70 years, and then try to you figure out what makes that tick, and then you look at Edgar Rice Burroughs or this other stuff that was before. They don't quite match up in the same way. Not that one's better or worse. It's just they have.
Well, I do need to try the John Carter series. I mean, I like the Land That Time Forgot series, and I like that kind of thing. The Lost World genre of the Lost World area of it. Time travel, I enjoy. I mean, when I see, like, these mammoth books of science fiction, it's divided into, like, mammoth book of SF, and it says time travel. That appeals to me, But when I see, like, SF war, i.e. war that's like a load of aliens shooting at each other with intergalactic missiles and stuff, that doesn't. But then alternative histories, which are, I believe, classified as science fiction, often do interest me as well, right? So, I absolutely loved that Doomsday book that I read. I think that was one of my highlights from last year. That Connie Will's book, apart from the ending, which just annoyed me, well, not the actual end of the story. There's something that happens. It's really stupid thing, but it just annoyed me.
Well, that's great. There's it's so diverse. Like each one, getting back to that word diverse, but there is a lot of variety in any genre.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
That's the thing. Like Steve goes on about his romances, and I can't really
No,
enjoy
I'm not.
There's so many
I'm not in
different.
those either.
Yeah.
Actually, the more I think of it, my reading scope is quite limited. Actually, I like.
But you mentioned fantasy, but you see, the thing is, I'm happy to read folklore and read that kind of stuff. But when that's sort of done into fantasy, I just don't enjoy it so far. Don't enjoy it. So it's the same type of thing with you with science fiction, I suppose.
Well, I'll tell you what, Gareth. Let's arrange to read it together because I really want to read it as well. I got it for when the Bryants were going to do that monthly. I don't know if it's still going. I haven't seen anything on it. The monthly book club, because I put it as my pick, and I don't think it's ever going to come up. So if you want to read it, we'll schedule a time to read it, Gareth, because I think it would be great. It's
I don't think I've read the sequel.
Say Nothing of the Dog. It's got a 3 men in a boat twist to it, so that would be fun.
Yeah.
Gareth says it means I just probably like realist science fiction as opposed to the weird stuff that he likes. Omnipotent Poobah, I don't think anyone is that hung up. Sorry?
That who likes?
That Gareth likes. He said he loves the weird stuff.
No, but he says that he likes the realistic.
No. He says it probably means I like the realist stuff.
But which is... Oh, okay.
That just means
I thought you said something else. Sorry.
No.
I can't see it. So.
I don't think anyone is that hung up on what is science fiction, what isn't. If it's using the future as a landscape for exploring interesting moral, psychological areas, then it ticks the box. Yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, that's fair, but it can even use the past. It can use the past or an alternate universe as well.
We've got the problem title is the title genre. Many critics and readers' minds immediately marks the book as second-rate writing because of the use of genre.
It does. That's the problem, or a problem with this, is because, and that's what Harlan Ellison balked against. So he didn't want to be called a science fiction writer, and he had his own view of speculative fiction. He thought that was more respectful because, and then people would look at it, because there are literary writers like that are considered in the literary canon that have written science fiction, but they don't call it science fiction. But everybody who reads science fiction think of it as science fiction.
Yeah. Well, that's good, Gareth. Yeah, we'll arrange that. Maybe we can do it in November. If New World's November is.
I think it's going to go ahead. Hopefully the Bryants are back, but I think
they do come and go, don't they? So there is a good chance they'll be back. So,
but I think it'll be like Horror Mayhem. We'll still be doing it. I think people will still be doing it, even though I didn't do anything really. Well, I guess I did do Horror Mayhem.
Been doing reading Dracula stuff, so that works.
But yeah.
Folklore and mythology retellings are usually fun.
Yeah. But you see, when it's put into fantasy, it just doesn't work for me.
Well, I started reading the ebook, or glancing through the ebook yesterday, of the Mammoth Book of Dickensian Mysteries, I think, edited by Mike Astley, and it seemed really good fun, because what it did was take some of Dickens's famous characters and put them into different stories, like maybe what happened when Oliver Twist grew up and all this kind of stuff. But then the problem is I couldn't read any further once I'd read the introduction, because I was like, well, I haven't read some of like Bleak House or Pickwick or something else as well. I was like, well, I haven't read it, so I need to read the book now. I need to read all the books to go back and read this one, because it sounds really awesome. But I thought I don't want to like, you know, read it before I've actually read the books. So let's change tack now, because you know I don't want too much science fiction spoken about on this channel. But let's go back to your video, the rereading the top 10 books you reread, because it was interesting. You know, quite a lot of people on I've never met until I started doing BookTube. I've never met so many people that reread as people on BookTube do, right? You know, quite often people say, "Yeah, it's a reread for me," and you are, I have to say, one of the bigger rereaders that I know. And it's just interesting because you came up with your own criteria, didn't you, for yourself? And then our good friend Mr. Donahue kind of, when he made his video, kind of implied that it was the rules to the well, it wasn't a tag, was it? But the rules to categorize. No, you know what I mean. These are the criteria. This is how it should be. But it's not true, is it? You know, you can do it anyway. Because I was thinking, if you have to choose 10 books that you've read at least 4 times, for a lot of people that'd be difficult. I would struggle to come up with 4 books that I've read 4 times.
Well, the thing is, because the reason why I did that was because if I did books that I've just read twice for myself, that would go into the hundreds or maybe thousands of books that I've reread twice. So I wanted to cut that down, and then so I figured, okay, 4 is just a nice round number. It seemed sensible, and that's a smaller number, and there might be 50 books in total that I've probably read 4 or more times. And then I sort of thought, well, then I'm going to confine it to stuff that I've reread in the last couple of years, and then pick those out. So
do you not think sometimes that, like, by rereading so much, I mean, I know obviously you're getting enjoyment out of it, but when you reread a book multiple times, are you not kind of maybe wasting time in terms of, like, you could be reading something that's brand new to you, or because it's something that's tried and tested that it doesn't matter, or you're still good? I mean, I understand, like, Les Miserables, you could probably read half a dozen times and still get something complete. I mean, it's so massive. There's so much in there. But, like, I don't know what, and even some, I think if the book's really small or really big, I can understand it more. But like a medium, like, I don't know, Dune. What is that? Why reread that so much? Is it just that it's a really fun, really good story, or you actually do get different stuff out of it every time you read it?
Get more stuff out of it every time. Like it's a multi-layered one, like Hyperion. Hyperion probably has more layers to it, but in a different way. But yeah, those are the things. And then see, all these, usually these books send me to other stuff. They send me to other areas to read outside of that, either other fiction or nonfiction that's around that type of thing, and explore other parts of it. And it's like, and also too, I don't always reread the same thing like year after year. There's some that I do it because it's comfort. It's like comfort food. But other ones I've read different stages of my life, and I've literally reread a different book because I'm a different person. And it's like reading a new book every time. It's like reading a new book. And yeah, there are still lots of books that I haven't read. There's no way see, the thing is, there's no way I'm ever going to read, even if I don't reread one word or one line of these books. I'm never going to read every book that I want to in my lifetime. It's never going to happen. So it's like I want to space it out with stuff that I enjoy and reread, and then explore stuff from that. But then, like, there was a commentator who says, read Lord of the Rings because I haven't read that. Then don't read, City again because I've read it 20 plus times. Or no, not Lord of the Rings, Frankenstein. That was one of my white whales thing, that I've not read Frankenstein, even though I know the story sort of front to back and back to front. I've not read it. But you see, I'm going to take a different tact when I do read this. I'm going to be doing it like I did with Dracula. I'm going to read it and then read around it.
Right. Right. Yeah,
Because
I
that's
mean the white whale thing. I didn't do a video on the white whale thing because I didn't. I mean, I appreciated Daniel's concept for it, but I don't feel I have that relationship to books, right? I don't feel that any book is kind of what's the word? I don't feel like I'm being tormented by not having read a particular book. I don't feel I if I haven't read it, it just means I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
To my mind, so it's not like I feel that I have white whales. I don't think so.
Well,
I
I
mean,
think,
yes,
yeah,
I want to read War and Peace, but it's just on the list, right? And I'll get to it. It's not like I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, I've got to 42 years old and I've not read War and Peace yet. Okay, I did attempt it once, but I was so young and I wasn't even 15, right? So it's understandable probably to have given up with it. But it's not like I spent the intervening 20 years or 30 years going, oh my God, I haven't read War and Peace yet.
yeah.
So, I like the idea and I can understand maybe it works for some people, but it didn't with me in terms of I don't.
For me, it wasn't so much the same thing like in that way. There were two books on the list is that, yeah, like that I do want to read and I should read because of certain things like Frankenstein is something that I should have read
Yeah,
because it's
I was very surprised.
and the reason for it is because it is potentially or arguably the first modern science fiction novel that was written. And I'm so much into science fiction that that should be something I read. And I don't like fantasy really that much, but it is akin. There is a comparison to science fiction, so I should read the foundational work of it in many ways is Lord of the Rings. And
Well,
everything else
Alexis
is,
has called us up on that because, as she said, we promised to read it this year in December, right?
yeah.
I know, it's like, oh no, really?
Yeah, that like I don't know. I may be able to and I may not.
Well, I am a man of my word in terms of I will at least listen to the audiobook.
Well, like I guess I could say is that I haven't set anything for December, so
Yeah.
it's possible that I could do it.
Well, we
But
do
yeah,
have one thing in December, though.
sorry.
We have one thing in December.
What?
Well, we're two things, but we have at least we have the Hunchback in
Yeah, but
Parry.
that was something that I wasn't even, and I have my other things that I was doing too. But additional of all those, what
Right.
else? What else is there December?
I don't know. Nothing else then. That's it,
Yeah.
probably. Jenny, I want to reread more, but I have a terrifying number of unread books on my. Well, we just broke that one. Get to first. Only exception is Silmarillion, Hobbit, and Lord of the Rings, which I read every year, August to December. I tell you, it better be bloody good. The number of people that go on about it.
Yeah, you see, I wasn't enamored by it.
It's both beautiful and crushing that there are too many great books. I think that's true, and that does. Yeah. I do get overwhelmed when it comes to thinking about what to read next because there's just so much. I just look around me even now, and I'm like, oh, I want to read that. I want to read that. I want to read that, and I just have to say, calm down and just you'll get to it. You just have to prioritize. And sometimes, I'm reading a book and I'm halfway through it, and all I can do is think about the anticipation of reading the next book that I've got lined up because maybe it might be better than the one, you know what I mean? And that causes problems.
The one thing that I wanted to sort of continue with the sort of white whale thing, like you're talking about, and this isn't stuff that I've read, and these are huge series that were in the Penny Dreadfuls, the Mysteries of London, and then the Mysteries of the Court of London. These are massive things that are going to be like 15,000 pages in total or more. And it's like, they're not going to be the greatest thing, but I am so intrigued by this that I want to read these. If that makes any sense. I'm so intrigued at something that big that was carried on for so long that I want to do it. It's like the Churchill biography that was started by Randolph Churchill and completed by Gilbert. And what is it? 10 volumes or something like that? It's like it does anybody warrant that? Does anybody, can you actually make something interesting with that detail in their lives? And that intrigues me. And it's like, that could very well have been on something like that, because I wouldn't mind reading it just for that reason. Not that I have a huge interest in Churchill, but just the fact that, it's so massive.
Yeah. Dracula is Jenny's white whale. Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't read it, Jenny. Gareth, I think it's healthy to read new stuff most of the time with the occasional reread, but I didn't used to reread much. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to, like, I was like that. Like, I only every year reread maybe 3 or 4 books. And I don't know why, ever since I got COVID, I just have been wallowing in rereading and love it. And
I mean, I was seriously trying to think of some books that I've read more than twice, and of course, you can immediately say, if I said to you, name 2 books that Mark's read more than twice.
Well, definitely 3 Men.
Three Men in a Boat and Treasure Island.
Yeah.
I can't think. I really can't think of anything else. I mean, there must be, surely.
But
I mean, I've reread a lot of books, but only twice. But then I'm a young man. I'm only 42. I mean, how many times can you reread these things, right? So
well, the thing is, like, for this, you don't have to be 4 times. It's like, the whole thing is reread. That's the thing. So if you've read the book twice, you've reread a book.
Well, yeah, but that's it. That's like kind of my limit, right? I haven't gone much apart from those 2. I mean, there's probably 5, but I just can't think of them right now.
Well, just like, if you wanted to do it, just think of maybe in the past 5 years, what are the 10 books that you've the best books or the most interesting ones that you've reread in the past 5 years or 10 years. Reread and just and make up your own thing, because it's a reread.
Yeah, that's what has to be done. The Spaminator just asks you a quick question. He's got to be quick because they're after him. I'm not quite sure what he means though. He says, Sean, what do you think about AA?
AA, Alcoholics Anonymous?
Well, I don't know. AA, maybe? No. I don't know. Spaminator, you'll have to be quick and go on with that. So Summer is looking forward to rereading War and Peace. So I'm glad you'll be joining us. At least I'm hoping that's what you mean. I'm really enjoying my reread of the Suki Stackhouse series. Yeah, that's the vampire, not the Vampire Diaries. What is it? True Blood? Is it? No. There was a TV series about it. I watched some of that. That was all right.
Okay.
I'm a rereader, but I think I have only a handful of adult books that I've read at least 4 times. Yeah. War and Peace is almost too good. Yeah, here we go. What do you think about Ring Around the Sun by Simak Hurry?
I loved it. I thought
there we go. There you go, Spaminator. He loved it.
It was an interesting thing of sort of parallel worlds and splitting off. And there's a really great scene in there where the guy, there's a listening device, and he throws something like a shoe at it, and it's a mouse, and he hears the breaking of tubes. it's obviously, you know, no transistors, because there were really no transistors at the time he wrote it. That's
Yeah,
kind of a neat thing that sets it. But also too, I really like it because of alienation and how people don't fit in at times. There's all these undercurrents that Simak does, and the undercurrents is those type of things of the story of how people don't fit in
yeah,
and why
yeah.
don't they fit in.
God, I swear to God, sometimes it's like I'm not even here. Sean, you and Steve Donahue would be worth multi-volume biographies each, and in your case, it would mean I can finally learn the whole story of you meaning Middle Eastern royalty. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I've done nothing with my life, Aaron. So, you know. Yes, thank you, Summer. Yeah, that is a book I have reread multiple times, definitely over 4 times, A Christmas
Oh
Carol.
yeah.
I
See
was
that
even in the play when I was a kid.
Well, you see that's another one that I could have used. I've probably read that 10 or 15 times as well,
Yeah.
at
No,
least.
I'm going to have to probably put on a light. It's getting dark. But I don't
Yeah,
think
I don't know. I'm gonna try to move this and see. I'm just
put it under your chin, like they do in the horror, you know. Yeah, oh, look at that. You got this. You've almost got a Fu Manchu.
give me a second. I did knock everything over here, I'm sure.
Oh dear. Yeah, so definitely Christmas Carol is one of them. There are probably others. I think I've read.
Is
I
that
probably
better?
read what's it called? Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yeah, but it's not an adult book, is it?
I've
No.
never read all of the whole series of that. I've never read the whole series. I've only read a few.
I don't know. I'm just wondering if anything actually jumps out at me when I look and see if there is anything I've read. Ivanhoe, I've read 3 times.
Once for me.
I have read that 3 times.
Oh,
So
did I ever answer you? You asked me about that. Yeah. I read, for some strange reason, when I didn't read too many books when I was young, but I read Sir Walter Scott when I was like under 15 years old.
well, I think I read. I think I first read Ivanhoe. I was probably 14. Actually, it's a great book, and I really want to do a Walter Scott deep dive. I've got a few of them here. So yeah. All right. Thanks for coming, Summer. See you later. Take care. Yeah, I don't know, but I think he's someone who's under appreciated on BookTube. I think Walter Scott, because he's so appreciated in all these French books we're reading. They love him. You know, even in Child of House of Parma, it's like he wasn't allowed anything with him except novels by Sir Walter Scott. You know, so it's like, yeah, I don't think. I may have read that 3 times. I've definitely read it twice, and that's Lorna Doone, and I wouldn't mind reading that again. I like that. I did a group read of it when I first joined BookTube. You read Lorna Doone?
Yeah, like I only once. Yeah.
It's good fun. So, Jungle Book. Yeah, but I don't know. It's not adult though, is it? I mean, kids' books is easy to read things.
Well, Steve
Yeah.
put it on. Steve
Did
put it on.
he? Oh, yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah. Yeah. But 3 Minute Boat Treasure Island definitely are up there as the biggest ones, I think, that I've read. Yeah, nothing else jumps out at me for now, for the time being.
No, it's an interesting thing, and I know some people never do reread, but I don't know. It's something that I've always done. I've always done, and more so now. Like it's lessening. Like I say, it started when I got COVID, but it's there's less and less as it goes on now, um, of stuff that I haven't read, because like I've reread Dracula, but everything else, like this month, like a little while, most of it I haven't reread in the last. I think out of the 60 books that I'll have read by the end of the month, probably 10 or 15 I haven't read or more.
Yeah.
So It's lessening.
Hmm.
But it is partially booktube, because when somebody says, "Ooh, yeah, I'd like to reread that," I'd like to read that.
Yeah, I'm sure you were a little bit tempted when I'm like, yeah, I want to read "To Serve Them All My Days." You're like, oh, yeah, it's about time for a reread of that.
Well, I just reread it about 2 years ago, but I did think I like it so much that, yeah, I wouldn't mind reading it for the fourth time, third or fourth time, I can't remember.
Well, I think we might have to wrap up soon. I'll just go through what's outstanding in the comments. I don't mean outstanding, i.e., of top quality. I mean that we haven't got to yet. Why is there always a damn vegetable cart in the way when you're trying to make a speedy escape? Mark, we would need a multimedia approach to your life story, like with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yeah, we should have virtual reality tour of my life story. Believe me, it would be at times interesting, at least. Gareth read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy multiple times. Jenny always feels like a fake reader in these streams, as you've never read Dickens, you've never read Shakespeare. You've read Chaucer, though, haven't you, Jenny? And Milton. So that's all right.
I tried rereading Milton, The Paradise Lost. I was going to do it with Greg and Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics. And my brain was just not, like, the COVID brain was just not ordered for this. And it was like, I've read it before. I understand it, or at least I thought I understood it. But then it's like at times my brain just will not. It's like it almost jumbles up the words.
I think though sometimes you just have to be in the mood for some things.
Yeah, and I definitely was not in my brain was not in gear for it, for sure.
I've started books, read a few pages or whatever, and said, no, look, I mean, this is good, and I'm excited to read it, but just not at this moment, because the mood, you're not in the mood, right? That's it, mood reader. And last comment there from Omnipotent Poohbar on the rereads theme. It's normally interesting when you reread stuff. I agree. Yeah, when you reread stuff that you loved in your 20s, 2 decades on, it always lands differently. Sometimes it spoils the memory. Sometimes it improves it. I think, yeah, for some things that's true. I don't know if it always does that, because I would say I mean, I guess my big rereads of Treasure Island and Three Men in a Boat, only, yeah, it does. My love grows larger. It swells like ShawnDStandfast's TBR with when each time I reread these things. So, well, Jenny at least owns Milton, but has never read it, nor Chaucer, nor Austen or Bronte either. Well, Bronte I only read last year, so
yeah, I've got to get back to my. I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and probably start Sense and Sensibility again, but I don't really want to, because I sort of I left it about 80 pages in, or I mean 80 pages left.
I think Alexis is flirting with you. I'm in the mood for books, especially when you're near me. So
that's a quote, isn't it?
Is it? Oh, yeah, I see there's a thing at the beginning there.
It sounds like a quote.
Could be.
But I don't know from where. It just
quotation of some sort. Well, it's been a very successful return, I think, hasn't it, Shawn? It's been nice. And we'll be back again next week, I hope, and on your channel.
Yeah, and tomorrow.
And tomorrow.
Yeah. I'll be doing
tomorrow, 6 p.m. UK time, the wrap up of Maypire with you and Brandy of the Booklectic, correct?
Yep.
Wonderful. So everybody, thank you so much for coming and watching us and making our return to these Friday lives such a joyous occasion. And we look forward to seeing you next week on Sean's channel. Do check out his live tomorrow. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be back with some videos between now and then anyway. So take care, everybody. Happy reading. All the best. Bye-bye.